What up, Little Mac mains? Let me just start this video off by saying that, I'm not like the final arbiter of all Little Mac tech, right? If this is a concept that, someone else covered, or you, the viewer watching this, had already thought about, then cool. Um, you reach two different paths with the same destination. I'm not gonna say I'm just the first to discover or think of these concepts, but if I come up with a naming convention for it or whatever, you don't have to abide by it by any means. But today's video will be discussing the rising uppercut interactions near ledge. Specifically, interactions where you will snap like that. And so you may have seen my really old video called snap canceled rising uppercut, and that's SCRU, screw, right? It's a fun way. It's also kind of like a corkscrew attack, right? Screw. And that video was talking about the first 3 frames of rising uppercut, right? It has a hitbox and it can be true combo at any percent, so you can turn a recovery situation into a kill confirm. But I'm going over when you get the multi-hit to snap, ledge snap, as well as final hit to ledge snap. And so I'll be, for the sake of this video, I'll be calling the multi-hit snap canceled rising uppercut slip screw, because when you're interacting with the opponent, right, they're kind of slipping out of it, so to speak, right? You get that little tiny multi-hit, and then the final hit of snap cancel rising uppercut, I'll just be calling that F screw. It's also kind of like, it's kind of funny, F screw, F and screw, whatever. So there's obviously 3 different factors to consider here, right? And like I just went over, multi-hit versus final hit. Let me just do that real quick. Bam. And then whether or not their opponent's on stage, like I just did here, or they're off stage. Right? They have different outcomes, different scenarios, as well as which direction you're facing. And you'll see that it does matter. Simply like the trajectory and which way their opponent faces afterwards. But I'll definitely go over more nuances on each factor, as well as show the different combinations, right? Whether it's on stage multi-hit facing this way, on stage multi-hit facing that way, final hit off stage facing blah 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 blah, each different combination. Alright, first part I'll be showing slip screw when your opponent's on the ledge, right, on stage like this. Well, the scenario being they're maybe trying to go for some kind of edge guard here, some kind of ledge trapping scenario. They're doing some shit, whatever, while they're trying to catch up to you, and as you recover, blah blah blah. It's a very, your opponent being here as you recover. That's a very common scenario. And then, depending on how close they are to the ledge, you can connect rising uppercut against them. So here we're showing what you can do if you do manage to connect the rising uppercut, right? So right there, that's probably something super easy and safe. Footstool them, as well as rising or just ledge jump near. Has very limited range. It depends on how close you are. You gotta, be able to determine that in the moment. And that being said, you're like, oh, that doesn't look true at all. Blah blah. Of course, well, that's the thing. It's not going to be true. You have to really think of it like nair, concept of nair and nair follow-ups. Nair works, right? Because it's quick, very low hit lag, freeze frames, very low hit stun, and you move very small distance. So, in the heat of the battle, y'all are close quarters, a scrimmage going on. Your opponent's not gonna react to what had happened to them, especially with Nair. Like you can get probably two Nairs before your opponent realizes what's happening, right? That's why Nair stuff works. Nair stuff's not true, but in reality, it does work. So similarly here, the multi-hit of Rising Uppercut is the same thing. On top of that, your opponent is probably expecting a final hit to come out. And so once again, that can also catch them off guard. So now we'll look at just how much like frame advantage there is in this situation. Let's see here. See there, when I grabbed the ledge, I was like just at ledge height or a little bit lower. And this is low enough that Roy is forced to land. So Roy cannot perform any aerial options. Roy is forced to land. And we'll see how much just advantage he gets. 1, 2, 3. So 3 frames of advantage, right? The first frame of ledge drop doesn't count as advantage. So 3 frames before I'm actually actionable, which is very negligible in reality, right? Like I said, on top of a lack of reaction, everything happens so quickly that very unlikely for your opponent to realize what's going on and input something correct or what they wanted. So let's do that. This goes. Let's slow it down without that. Yeah. Boom. So if you do footstool, it's super free way to get back on stage, right? You're invincible on the footstool, or you're intangible rather, and your opponent is stuck in that little footstooled animation. Or let's jump there. Free damage, and same thing. You'll kind of pop them, and they'll be like, "Oh man, what the hell just happened?" Interrupt their momentum. Just like with Nair, can eat up their inputs, cause them to make a mistake. And I'm gonna show what it's like when they eat their inputs as well. So like what I was saying in relation to where you grab the ledge, like your height. Let me show a little bit of example. So right here I'm above ledge height now. Therefore, that means I'm pushing Roy higher and higher. So this might be enough height for Roy to input area. So here's a double jump, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. So that gives without the force landing, gives Roy a few extra frames of advantage, and gives him the option to input aerials, an aerial option, double jump, air dodge, or an aerial attack, making the ledge jump follow-ups impossible. But that's gonna guaranteed to happen, right? Your opponent had to have been spamming, like realistically, your opponent had to have been spamming the jump button. So with E and inputs, let me just show. Boom. So I have jump held here on this controller, and jump is not going to come out because it got eaten up the input got eaten up once he got attacked, once he got hit. So once he got put in, the hit stun, the very minimal hit stun, hold buffer no longer, you're in a different state, and so no longer will come out once you're actionable. So yeah, say your opponent's trying to, I don't know, down smash you or something maybe. And they were like spamming that shit, like, oh no, got landing lag. It wasn't what they were trying to do. And if you do recognize that they got landing lag, yeah, you could, depending on how much landing lag it is and how close they are, just ledge drop haymaker, some good damage, puts them in a tech chase situation, and you can get back on stage for free. That being said, they're also able to air dodge, right? If they're thinking like, oh man, let me just shield, but they're not ready for that and miss input, they're not sure what happened, and they also do the same thing. It's extra landing lag, but not as much as aerial. I wouldn't do a haymaker off of this, just because I don't think that's gonna be. I don't think you have enough advantage off of the neutral air dodge at least to make haymaker worthwhile. So, and then with direction facing, right? Every attack has a parameter where it sets your opponent's direction, and some attacks have it so it's like wherever you are based on the hitbox. Like down smashes will usually, it's like deterministic against the hitbox itself. See how they're both facing the same direction? They're both facing left. And Roy is still facing left. However, you get hit like this, now Roy's turned around. Hit like this, Roy's turned around. Roy's turned around. Most moves will make the opponent face towards the direction you're facing. Like, face each other. You know? So, this also applies to Rising Uppercut. So, most cases, this is what happens, right? Boom, Roy's facing same direction. However, if you do a reverse Rising Uppercut with a diagonal input, now Roy's facing the other way. So let me just do it again. So there, Mac is facing to the right. And so once they get hit, the game is telling Roy to face to the left, right? Mac's facing here, Roy's facing there, but once he gets hit, now I want Roy to face each other. Even though they're at different heights, the game doesn't track that. The game doesn't track where you are in relation to getting hit. It just knows which direction Mac is currently facing. So if you could even hit them like from behind, and it would still make Roy face a specific direction. And there's a lot of advantage in doing this. Mostly being it can trip your opponent up, right? If they're trying to do something like run off instant ledge trump, or run off back air, something where they will run off, they now have to go through 4 extra frames of turnaround, right? And that can mess up their timing, and that can be enough for you to like get away, get off ledge for free. Likewise, they don't realize they're turned around, and they're doing some stuff like this, like some, depending on the character, right? Some of them like to do this for ledge trapping, down tilt, or they're holding shield. They don't realize that they're turned around, and common thing to do is just ledge, shield grab, neutral get up type of thing, right? Like, so that can mess them up. They're not ready to be turned around, And so that's a big benefit, right? And even if they are turned around, the stuff I said earlier, let's jump, footstool still works. Let's jump nair still works. So truly and honestly, there's no reason not to reverse that motherfucker, man. Reverse that motherfucker. Um, yeah. So now I did what? So that was slip screw on stage, and I talked about both directions. And now we're talking about slip screw off stage. And for the sake of this demonstration, I'll just be doing it on ledge, hanging off a ledge, right? Because the idea is, like I think I said earlier, like your opponent's going for an edge guard or whatever. Damn, I underestimated Roy's recovery. Um, you're going for edge guard, whatever, you miss, and you both go for up B, you catch them in your uppercut, right? Very common scenario. Doing that, they miss, you guys both up B or whatever, right? And so for the sake of it, like, I'll just be doing it off ledge because you will be dragging them up to the ledge anyhow, and then it will get canceled once you snap to the ledge. So showing, oh, what the hell am I doing? So this is very common. If you are going in that direction from off stage to stage, you will, by virtue of jostle and multi hits, you will lift them and carry them onto stage, right? So the same principles apply that I talked about earlier. You just kind of have to be aware that if you are, having some forward momentum, there's a very possible outcome that you carry them on the stage. Now, if you're more like below them, it can still happen. So it depends on the various factors: your hitbox size, jostle, slightly DIing while they're getting multi-hit and such. Say you're going low and you're going more of like a straight up type of thing, then you're less likely to bring them onto stage, right? And then this can happen. I mean, they're not likely to just drop and fall dead, but same principles apply where, you know, they may not realize what's going on and they, think they can shield or whatever, tech the recovery, or they thought they were going for a ledge roll and now they air dodged down. And some characters literally cannot recover when they do a neutral air dodge at ledge height. And most other recoveries are just very linear and easy to edge guard. So that Roy would just be super easy to ledge guard, just ledge drop, counter, and it would be kind of a done situation, done deal. Or like, I guess like Lil Mac, if you neutral air dodge off stage, you're pretty much cooked. Same thing if they use an aerial. And mind you, you'll be invincible, right? Let me just show that actually. You have intangibility. And so depending on what, typically they end up inputting there, right? Because the direction input usually gets eaten up, but people are usually tapping attack. And so usually Nair comes out when it comes to aerials. But yeah, same thing happens, yeah, some arrows are so laggy, they get fucking cooked, or whatever, you get a super linear recovery, easy to edge guard, right? Not a bad option if you're, like I said, if you're predicting your opponent to just double jump at some point. That's the quickest footstool combination I ever got. I don't think I even used my double jump. Didn't use my double jump for that. Holy shit. That's crazy. Yeah, that's very unlikely to happen. I look like super clean, I'm super perfect, but damn. Um, let's see, other follow-ups that you can do. Not necessarily true, mind you. So yeah, you can do ledge drop into turnaround up B, right? It's really not that risky because it's not a one-time resource, right? You get um, up B back when you get hit. And just some decent um, damage off of this interaction. I mean, it's like going for jab 1-2 mix-ups, right? It's not true, but it's fast enough that it can happen. And that could happen for sure. Opponent's like, what the hell just happened? Not react to a ledge action and then just get trumped. Boom. And shitbox, unlike regular Nair, has more like hit stun and therefore like it leaves them in place. So you can't really do any Nair drag down stuff, right? And you're not even facing them to begin with. So if you do land the shitbox, it's just gonna be that shitbox. You can't do more Nairs after it, as you double jump or something. Again, double shitbox. But you can do a wave maker, and it does true combo at this percent, which will be a kill. Then I'm pretty sure, yep, undermaker tech, regrab instantly. So you can't do that. If you do that, man, that's legendary. That is legendary. But aside from that, it's pretty much the gist of slip screw stuff you can do, right? So, oh yeah, if you suspect based on like you realize how low you were when you started the rising uppercut, there is a set distance that you will travel. So if you can recognize how low you are, that will determine how high you go. Or you just recognize how high you are, you can predict the auto trump situation and play off of that, right? So over here, this is very likely that Roy is gonna, but with a non-reaction, no input, end up going for an auto ledge grab. And you in turn can play off of that, re-grab ledge yourself, and then you get a trump, right? Because you're like, oh man, what the fuck just happened? Oh, I'm grabbing ledge now, and I'm not sure what Lil Mac is up to. So they kind of just do nothing, right? You're like, oh, maybe I can, assess the situation and edge guard him by, you know, processing and doing something else without buffering, right? That's how you beat a trump is you just always buffer a ledge option, right? But I said in the situation where fast pace, low hit lag, lack of reaction, this can be played off of, right? I'm not gonna say this can't never happen, but I'm also definitely not saying this is guaranteed. And boom, some characters that much hit, that much knockback is just death sentence for some characters. But you, damn, landed another fucking close ass footstool. I'm just trying to do a ledge drop, double jump down air, guys. Okay. Boom, right? You can do that. Can net you to kill. You know what I mean? Very down air, very hard to land. But it's possible if you want to play it off like that. Like I said, this is just playing off an interaction, right? You get a hit, you get a small hit like that. There are ways to play off of it. Don't just let it be like a one-off. Don't just ignore it. You get a hit, you get a hit. There, you can gain momentum if you will, if you want to. All right, so quick recap with slip screw stuff. All right, all the key points that you should take into account. If they're on stage, just do let's jump nair, let's jump footstool. And if they're off stage, and make sure you recognize that they end up off stage, then you got a few more options, right? Footstool can be the death of many characters. Recognize if your opponent likes to attack or air dodge out of hit stun or in like situations like that, and capitalize on it, right? You know, ledge hang, ledge drop, counter, whatever. And last but not least, always buffer an input because you don't want to get auto trumped. You get auto trumped, now you put yourself at risk of getting edge guarded, or you go for a regrab and now you don't have ledge invincibility, which is super bad. Oh, and recognize how high or how low you are in your slip screw, right? Because they're higher up off stage will lead to an auto ledge grab for them, right? But you can reverse the trump situation. And if they're on stage, they may be able to accidentally or possibly, misinput an aerial, and therefore you can capitalize on that landing lag. And so next, I'm going to be talking about final hitbox. And, similar to slip screw, the off stage, on stage, and direction facing are important factors. So I'm going to go with opponent on stage. Like I said, same scenario. They're going for ledge trapping, they're trying to two frame you, what have you, but they happen to be standing on stage near the ledge. So the hit stun on this move is actually pretty impressive. Not sure if it's gonna be true on Roy, but yeah, I don't know if you saw that. See combo for current damage 7.2. So that means that the previous final hit is part of this combo. Right, that was a true combo. Final hit into ledge drop, but I had to do a reverse rising uppercut. That way they popped out off stage to the right of the ledge, right? Normal facing final hit will leave them above the stage, making rising uppercut impossible to connect to, at least for Roy. Oops. So if you want to do a final hit, obviously you either gotta space your shit out super well, or just go hold down, right? Go for the beefy recovery, as they like to call it. And then just go for upbeat. So I'm pretty sure that puts you at like, I don't know, a crazy good amount of frame advantage, honestly. Right, frame 27, and then immediately after, snap to ledge. Oh, it's gonna be true, but get one. Now, the first frame of ledge drop doesn't really count as being actionable because you can't really do anything but be in midair. It's like jump squat, right? You have those 3 frames. You're doing an action, but you have to go through those 3 frames. So you have to go through 1 frame of ledge drop first, right? So that's one parentheses one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Boom. So 12 frames of advantage, but realistically 11. At least to connect this hit. I'm pretty sure it's 14 frames. I don't really care. Just know that this shit's true. Yeah, so that's a good way to get some easy damage. And then in general, say they're a higher percentage. Just going for the reverse uppercut is just going to put them in disadvantage, right? Now they're, because it's, a somewhat diagonal hit, and they're above ledge, and now they may and very likely will use a resource, whether it's double jump or air dodge or some other type of recovery move, to reposition themselves, right? Now, on the other hand, you're doing a regular facing rising uppercut. Oh wow, oh, that shit didn't even connect. They do not need to use a resource because they're obviously well over the stage. They could just attack, fast fall, neutral air dodge quite easily. So, and higher percentages, it's in your best interest to reverse that motherfucker. Follow-ups on a final hit, it's really only like a low percent thing. Yeah, if you get final hit and you're very parallel, if not below ledge, right? Hitting them from that low without, because the multi-hits will slowly push them higher and higher, right? So if you do it very low, or simply you just land the final hit, you'll send them very low and force them, very likely force them into a tech situation, right? Like I said, it's a very low, it's a low, how you say, trajectory. Most people won't even think that low percent they'd be put into tumble. So it can result in a tech situation. Like you saw there, he was able to air dodge a few frames, but that's a very hard thing to react to. And it is possible to get up in time for a jab lock, but that's very dependent on character dependent, weight and all that, and how high or low you hit them, right? Or it could be even DIing or some shit, but you do have enough time generally if they miss the tech, jab lock them or some shit. Very low percent, right? It's very low trajectory. You may be able to land a footstool. You're not guaranteed that on the frame advantage because you're only plus 14 and ledge jump animation is 14 frames. And also, like I said, sometimes it takes a while for your opponent to be like, damn, what the hell just happened? And now you can just do, ledge grab. You can go for a trump punish or a regrab punish, something like that. There you would do ledge drop footstool. This ledge jump will take you way too high. Can be true, but like the positioning and timing needed. See, combo 3. Timing needed for that shit, super precise. I mean, it just goes to show. Also, I may have misspoke earlier, but it's 8 frames of advantage at 0%, which is enough, or 9 frames, because 1 frame of ledge hang, 8 frames of haymaker. So it's enough for haymaker to come out, which is kind of, I don't know, interesting to think about, right? Final hit, you know, F screw, I guess, call it. Which is a funny thing, F screw, like F screw. Um, um, yeah, it's got a lot of hits done for seemingly weak move. Would I go for that? No, I wouldn't go for that. It's cool that it's possible. Anyways, once you start getting like higher than 20%, you know, follow-ups become, you know, harder. I didn't even do a final hit. Yeah, any other follow-up after like 20-ish, maybe 30%, all you're gonna get is another ledge drop, rising uppercut. Anything after that, anything higher than that, you're just sending them off stage, which is good. Just like I said, puts them in a state of disadvantage. So, this recap on final hit screw, F screw, is low percents have follow-ups, have true combos, but always reverse it so that you send them off stage. Unless, yeah, unless you find yourself on the ledge here facing this direction already, and obviously you don't want to reverse it and therefore face towards ledge. Basically, always try to make it so you're facing away from the ledge, therefore it sends them away from ledge. And another thing that's important, it's not really has to do with any of what snap cancel rising uppercut has to offer, but when it comes to facing directions, that does account for counters, because all the counter does is make you counter towards the same parameter that dictates which way you'll face after getting hit, right? Same thing, you get hit, you turn around in the direction that the parameter says so. And see, I mean, it's not gonna hit in this situation. I was too low, but now watch me reverse that motherfucker. And look, he faced the other way, so obviously not the best example, but like if your spacing is hard, is sometimes you have no choice but like to hit a bad recovery angle just because that's like your only choice, right? I think the best part about it is that I'm gonna try and do it. if you do get hit, right? Like I said, a lot of counters have really big hitboxes. It'd still be a win. Because if you tech it, or if you're at low percent, it doesn't really matter. At least you're getting hit towards the stage, right? So always pretty much reverse that motherfucker. I can't lie. Reversing that shit has a lot more benefits than not. Yeah, lower. Boom, and then you can even pratfall them. If you know what pratfalling is, it's when like you jab block someone, then push them off the ledge. It can also happen when they're just near ledge and they get hit with a certain type of move that causes a specific kind of flinch animation. Will also pratfall them. You can pratfall into footstool, that's true. Pratfall into footstool is true. Because they're stuck in set amount of frames. I forgot what it was, I guess 15 frames maybe. Most characters will just grab ledge. And you can also play off of that automatic ledge grab. So most pratfall follows people do is simply just playing off the trump, knowing that they will likely automatically grab ledge, right? They're not going to act out of the pratfall, and therefore not react or buffer an action to prevent getting ledge trumped.
It's a technique. Step one, go hit the drop, up, down. 2 bounces, get back right here, verse that motherfucker.